we create our own realities. It's true. So create your own reality. Create your reality in which your art is in the world.
I wrote you an introduction.
You wrote me an introduction.
Yes.
Wow.
Are you ready?
Oh, please.
Okay. So my guest today is Hownd, aka Justin Kelly. Justin is an artist, guitar player, and illustrator. His songwriting career began in 2015 when he was in the Boston-based Americana band Dear June, and he went on to release his debut solo record as Hownd in 2018 called Only Good Things. Since then, he's been consistently releasing and performing original songs as well as composing music for short films, and has recently been sharing more of his illustrations as well. You're also my husband.
Sweet.
But I'm going to try to come into this interview as not from a place of being your wife.
Yeah, please,
as from a place of, and already knowing everything about you, but from a place of wanting to just get to know more about you as a songwriter and as an artist and as a creative person.
Yeah, baby.
So hello.
Hello.
Hi, Justin.
Hello, Phöenix. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So this podcast is all about songwriting. And when I actually first met you, you were in a very pivotal point in your career as a musician. We were both in college. And you were in Dear June in that band. And I feel like at that time you were finding your voice as a songwriter professionally and taking it seriously for the first time. So can you talk a little bit about what your first experiences discovering yourself as a songwriter were?
Yeah. So when I was younger, I didn't think much of it as a songwriting standpoint. I was always musical growing up and took piano lessons, and the first time was really with friends. It was very much in a band environment and a kind of a all over the place, everyone's making noise, kind of rein it in together type of thing. And that was kind of where I had my first major experience with songwriting and writing with Carter and Brady and
your
friends.
high school best friends.
Yeah, my high school best friends when I was younger. And
I like that making noise.
Yeah, I never, it's funny.
That's really what it is.
Yeah, I didn't think of it as songwriting really until I got in a scholarly place.
Until there was a song and you were like, oh, we wrote this.
Yeah. Or it really was. It was interesting. It was just making noise. Yeah, it was getting it out, letting it out. And anyway, so yeah, that was some of my first experiences, I would say, in middle school. And I remember even the first time ever really playing out to an audience. It was this place up in New Hampshire. Oh, I forget the name. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's such a bummer, but...
And Justin is from Massachusetts.
Yes, yeah, I grew up in Massachusetts.
Is curious.
So,
it's so interesting. I don't know how to interview you.
I know, it's so hard.
I already know everything about you. And this is not really an interview, it's more of a conversation. But
yeah.
I want you to just speak your story instead of me speaking your story for you.
Yes.
So
all right.
Let me know if I'm doing that. Well, continue. You were up in New Hampshire performing in front of people for the first time.
Yeah, I remember So Said the Sun. That was the kind of group that Carter and I had started, and we had some friends in and out, but him and I got together and wrote quite often. He was the only other guitar player or singer who was kind of writing songs. He had a couple of his songs that I liked, and yeah, he was just a good friend. He was one of my first friends moving to town. He moved into town in third grade, so... Anyway,
we love Carter.
Yeah, we love Carter. So moving on from that, really the first experiences songwriting, I think, were writing in high school and expressing myself with my own songs with My Way Out and these early just very angsty teenage songs. I was a very emotional kid. I got along with everybody, but I never really... I don't know, I didn't stick with one group. It was very all over the place, and so I always had this kind of feeling of just emotional kind of, angst, teenage angst, ooh, I'm the outcast, know, I'm sure many can relate to that. Even though I was, amicable and very, very much loved to be around people and loved to, talk. I was always kind of just like playing Yu-Gi-Ohs
it really
in the
fuels
hallways,
the fire of a songwriter to feel like you don't fit in.
Yeah, so I say that because not that I don't want everyone to know about my Yu-Gi-Oh days, but I say that more for the the fuel. You're right. Yeah, it was definitely that energy fueled a lot of how I felt impassioned to write and why I felt so deeply to express myself. So,
right. And so also when you were in high school, you did start playing music on trumpet, correct?
Yeah.
So how was that transition from being an instrumentalist and having this role of being in high school in your marching band and then transitioning from that to writing songs with your friends in high school and becoming more of a well-rounded musician than just being a trumpet player? What did that kind of look like?
Melody on trumpet was why I picked up the trumpet. Why I loved the
Right.
trumpet was because it was this brass voice above everything you could hear that was best when having a striking melody or something. So
Right.
that's really where I fell in love with, I think, music in general, was in melody, and that's where I fell in love with the trumpet.
It is like a voice.
And it is very, very similar to the voice in some ways, not as much like the cello, but yeah, similar to the voice. And
So do you approach writing now as a singer-songwriter from a melodic standpoint primarily because you started on the trumpet?
I believe that's impacted me. Yeah, that's a fair assumption. I think I've always enjoyed the melody because that's just what I was always singing from songs. Like everything that stuck out to me with a good melody. That's the only part of the song that
It's interesting to hear that because I was talking to somebody the other day about how we all hear different parts of songs first. Like, for example, my cousin always hears the bass line first, and she's not a musician at all. And I listen to songs primarily for lyrics. I actually listen to like the context of the song, and some people hear the rhythm first. And it's interesting that obviously it stands out, melodies stand out because it's the thing that gets stuck in your head. But it's interesting that that's the thing that you gravitate toward. And it makes sense as a trumpet player.
Yeah. And that being said, melody was huge. And the other part that I said being rhythm, I also had a huge fascination. My dad was a drummer, and being in the drum line, and I would say those are the two components. I'd say there's probably different ratios there, but yeah, melody mixed with rhythm. I really just loved the complex rhythm and more so just the groove, like the backbeat. I was just such a backbeat guy, and I love the feeling of a strong foundation, a strong backbeat. So in my songwriting, I guess that's what's kind of moved in, and reflecting on the songs that I have written and put out, I'd say there's a strong, rhythmic foundation as well as melody that while writing, I generally don't think lyric too heavily, or at least I don't start lyrically. For me, I really just need to get a solid, I guess, vowel structure and phrase down, but melody based for sure. Yeah.
So, and in you talking about making noise with your friends in high school and how that was an opening for you to start writing songs, I want to ask, do you remember the first song that you ever wrote? And if you remember it, please tell me about it, because I feel like that song is so important in the journey of a songwriter. It can impact so much and have such a big impact on the future of your songwriting. And what is the first song that you ever wrote?
Yeah, I love this.
And I know it's hard to remember.
No,
I'm sorry.
I know. I totally know.
I try to think of this for myself often, and I'm like, what was the name of it? Like,
yeah,
I just remember like a vivid memory of a journal, and so I know that it's difficult, but I just like take us back down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'm sure there were little snippets and little songs here and there that I couldn't put a name on or a thumb on, but I do remember. I mean, I wrote a song when I was very young, probably 9 or 10, I'd
Is
even
this what
say.
I think it is?
Which was the Potato Song. And my parents would probably beg to... They
It is
would
still
say
being sung in the Kelly
that's
household.
probably the first song I wrote, yeah.
That is amazing. So how old were you when you actually wrote that song?
I mean, actually wrote, folks. We're talking about, like...
I
was
formative.
8 or 9 or 10. I don't remember exactly, but yeah.
Right. And so was it like a dancing around the kitchen in a silly, goofy mood at 8 years old type of song that
totally.
you had
It was.
written?
I think it was the total lucid kid zone where you're just not even giving a shit,
High
and you're
on
just
life.
like, excuse me if I can't swear. High on life.
I think you can swear. I
Yeah.
think it's okay.
I mean, any podcast.
I haven't
you gotta be able
decided,
to
but I
swear.
just decided right now.
Oh, that's badass. All right. So Potato Song, but then I'd say the first real serious song that I was like, okay, I wrote this song, I would say was My Way Out, which was something that I played with Carter and played with So Said the Sun, but that was a song that I wrote, totally me, just bedroom angst kid song. Yeah.
Right.
Green Day at the time, a little Metallica sprinkled in with the whole soundtrack.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I can see it now. Were you wearing a puka shell necklace?
Might have been a puka shell. Yeah. That was around the time. Yeah.
Okay. And so what was the song about?
Very on the chin, as my titles tend to be on my songs. It was My
Right.
Way Out. It was just about
Finding a way
your
out.
escape, finding that escape in life.
And did you find that escape in songwriting?
I would
Was
say
that
so.
the real escape of that experience?
Yeah, totally. And that's
Your way out was songwriting.
Oh my
Would you
gosh.
say?
I'd say so. That's very astute. Yes, it was. It totally was. And music to me was never something I thought too much about, I guess, when I was in middle school and high school. It just came out. I find now as I've gotten older, I've got to squeeze the tube. I'm at the end of the tube. It's like I've got to squeeze it out. But you know what I mean?
Why am I thinking of those yogurt tubes? So, do you remember the experience of writing that song? I know it was collaborative with a friend in high school, but was it just like playing chords,
Yeah, no,
volume 10 on the amp, and then just like whatever comes out happens?
Yeah, I was primarily an acoustic kid.
Oh, okay.
Because I wasn't so...
I do recall you saying you brought your acoustic guitar to camp.
I was going to say, that was, I think, around camp. I think that was around the camp time.
Very
and
important.
I'd say that was actually a huge part of... That was a very huge inspirational time for me as a kid, was also to be at camp. I think that gave me a lot of good stuff to write about just because there was always something going on.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It is true. I do reflect on how we are so inundated as adults with things to do and things to worry about, and we are responsible for so much more. And as a kid, like being in high school, when both of us primarily started writing songs, it was like stuff was just happening around you and you were so focused on it because there was nothing else to focus on. And everything was new. And it's kind of difficult. I'm finding it increasingly difficult as I get older to really find things that I am compelled to write about.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if you find the same.
Yeah, and I think also it's kind of that phenomenon where it's like the harder you look for something, it's harder to find it, you know? Like a little bit...
I'm looking a little too hard these days, I guess.
Looking a little too hard sometimes,
it's
you
kind
know?
of like how we met.
Yeah, it was serendipitous, quite frankly.
So, speaking of you and I meeting, we did meet when we were both attending Berkeley. And as I mentioned earlier, when I met you, you were in a band that started out as a duo with your friend, and you were writing songs with her, and formed into later a larger band. And I know that experience of being in a band and collaborating with other writers and musicians at music school was really impactful for you in your career as a songwriter. And coming from high school and collaborating with friends, and now coming to a place where you were taking it more seriously and finding your own voice as a songwriter, like how was that experience for you transitioning to being in a band and then eventually transitioning out of being in that band and really like coming into your own as an artist?
Yeah, I definitely very much I'm a people person. I work with people, and for most of my life, I mean, my schedule is packed with group stuff. So for me, a band was the dream for sure, because it's your gang of buddies, and you go about it, and you can write together, and you can fill in the blanks for each other, and that's a really powerful thing. I think it's still a challenge to come into your own as a solo artist these days. I think it's really hard to entirely be just flying solo, really up to you. You got to make all the mistakes. You got to make all the decisions. And it's really good. But songwriting in a group was something that I really felt comfortable with. And I love the co-writing experiences I had, the classes at school, but also just like out in the world, in general, after and in Nashville too. Like those experiences and collaboration, it really is part of the magic of it, and it's like even more as it's reflected across so many things with this screen culture and just being distanced, like that human element, it is getting sucked, I think, out of songwriting and really creating art and writing songs for the craft of writing, not to assert a goal or to sell something or to get a hit. The craft itself of writing a song and like poetry, you know what I mean?
So we have heard now your first. I really feel like we skimmed over the potato song, and that's fine.
Circle back.
But we don't need to circle back, but I'm just saying, like, that song is amazing, and the lyrics are potato, potato, I'm a potato, right?
I like potatoes.
I like potatoes.
Yeah.
Say I'm a potato. That's just, wow, Freudian slip. That's how I feel, but I like potatoes. That's so funny. Anyway, that song is so important, and I can't believe that. I wasn't even thinking when I was asking you that question that was going to be the answer. So important. But so we've heard about that song, and now I want to ask, what was the first song that you wrote by yourself, like you as Justin Kelly sat down and wrote a song, the first song that really felt like, oh, this is me, like this sounds like me, that was therapeutic, that you could sit down and play and just felt natural? What is that song? And did you release it? And will it ever see the light of day?
There's probably varying couple places. I think Down is probably one of them. When I was younger, my mom's is still a brilliant piano player, but played more often back then, and there was something always about the piano. It was the first instrument I took lessons for, and I just always had an affinity for it, but I never felt like I could keep up at the piano, and I had so many interests pulling me all over, and so that song I wrote on piano in our house, and that was probably the first song where it was like that was supposed to happen. I was supposed to get that one, because that just felt. I remember it was around that time. It was the early 2000s. It was Bad Day by what's his name?
You had a bad day.
Yeah. Oh man, I love that song. I love playing that song, and I mean Michael Bublé tunes on the piano and printing out those sheets and
Gavin
and
DeGraw.
it was around that. Yeah, Gavin DeGraw.
I don't wanna be anything, like piano power ballads.
Oh yeah, just power ballads. I was such a fan of the early 2000s power ballad. It gave me, as I'm sure we can relate.
Yeah.
Like
oh yeah.
It was just very, very powerful and kind of spiritual and just soulful in a way. Very white, obviously, but still very like powerful,
And it's interesting that you say that, like, that was supposed to happen, because I do know this song, and it honestly is one of my personal favorite songs that you've ever written. You wrote it, way before we even met. And it's interesting because I don't know exactly how old you were when you wrote that song, but when I look back on songs that I wrote when I was a teenager, I laugh in an endearing way, but I just feel like I've grown so much as a human and as an artist, and have found a voice that is more realistic and mature than, like you were saying, the teenage angst.
Yeah.
Like, I wrote songs called Cry, and it was like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
boy doesn't like me and I just love him so much, and all of these like really longing feelings. And then when I listen to your song Down, it is so, like, it just soars above all of that. Like, it's so mature and aware, and like, it's interesting. Like, it feels like that song, like you said, was meant to be written. And I don't know if you feel that way. Like, I didn't know you when you were a teenager, and I don't know if you were just that mature, but it's such an amazing song, and it has such a powerful message that I think like just transcends all of this.
Yeah, and I
And to be
appreciate
so
that.
young and to write a song, like have that be one of the first songs that you ever wrote, is just crazy to me.
I appreciate it. I think that one was special for that reason, and yeah, I don't know what it was that gave me that awareness then, but I've always kind of been just trying to relate to relate up, like try to look
Right.
outside of
Bigger
myself and
picture.
try to just constantly looking bigger picture through
Yeah.
other experiences in life. And
that doesn't surprise me at all, because
yeah, not to
I
say
know
I
you.
was overly mature, and everyone's gonna have a different opinion. I felt like I was just trying to be the bigger picture, bigger picture guy. I really just wanted to not let this shit get to me, and just like, okay, well, we're all here, short time, not a long time, just like live your
Yeah.
life. And
Yeah.
that was hard to do in a fast-paced kind of culture I was at. So I think that's why also it pushed me to songwriting. I was able to write about this stuff, and it still carried me through the songs I recorded and wrote in high school as well as college.
Right. So, for just so that everybody has context, what is your song Down about? Or what is the message of the song?
So I think the message was mostly just, I put it on my arm for that reason. Just live without the fear of falling down. Just the general, very basic, hopeful philosophy. Like, don't worry about the stuff that's going to get in the way. You're going to live through it regardless. Just live through it, like
and when you say you have it on your arm, you literally have it tattooed on your arm.
Yes.
Your entire forearm.
Yeah, my forearm, that was the first one, which is probably why I got it tattooed. Was also, my brother was into tattoos a lot, and I was just like, let's get inked up, which by no means I'm saying I regret. I was just like, I loved it, because my brother and I went through a phase where we were like,
I love that,
just getting tatted. It was nice.
You're like, Ryan's so cool, I want to be like him.
Yeah, I was like, my big bro's so cool, let me get some tats.
But it is true. It's I'm not surprised at all that you wrote that song at the age that you did. And it's interesting looking at you now as an artist and a songwriter, and obviously I know you better than most people, as your wife. And
my wife.
and I just know like the core of who you are, and I know that you're that bigger picture person, and I know I still laugh to this day because I am such a small picture person in who I am, and also who I am as a songwriter. Like, I love the details. I love the small things. I get caught up in the little things, and it's not a negative thing per se. I love that about myself, but the contrast between our songwriting is so interesting, because I am always writing about the frost on the windowsill in mid-January, and you're always writing about societal issues that need to be addressed before humanity collapses. It just makes me laugh, and I love that, and it's just hilarious to me to think about 18-year-old Justin writing a song about having the courage to live without the fear of falling down.
Yeah, well, that's sweet. It was a special song, and I think I just learned a lot from it. I think it was also the first time where I felt confidence as a songwriter. So now going back to the songwriter thing, like, when I say I didn't really start feeling like a songwriter, ladies and gentlemen, Phöenix just spilled a bit of wine, which, let's be real, in this household, not super rare of an occasion.
We can just continue to move forward on this podcast, but I love how there was no hesitation at all. Like, you just saw it happen and we're like, of course this is happening. That is my wife, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm sorry. I was going to continue.
Yeah, continue.
Okay, sorry.
We don't need to clean it up.
No, hell no. It's our
we
house.
actually don't.
No,
Yeah.
definitely not.
This
Are you
is
kidding
what
me?
being adults
Yeah, you get to make a mess you don't have to
actually-
clean up. Yeah.
When you realize you have free will.
Yeah,
Just not clean up.
that's right. Sorry, so we were talking about... Can cut all this. Songwriter. Oh, yes.
Being a songwriter.
Being a songwriter, of course. I'm a songwriter. Yeah, shifting into college and actually like taking myself seriously as a songwriter, as a creator of written word and song and lyric. I think also I had a passion as well to write. I wrote a lot of short stories in high school, and I just loved writing. You know, and it's so funny. Sorry, I wanted to go back. That's why I was probably held up. On the big picture, small picture thing, like, it's so crazy to me now reflecting back, like, the echoes that has on every wave of my creativity, and equally towards, you know, others and yours as well with the details. Like, you're such a detail-oriented person, and I love it. And it's like, it's something that I aspire to be, because when I'm writing, I'm like, okay, I need to spruce this up, you know? I don't just want to say the big stuff and what sounds nice, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to just, I enjoy it. I really do. And it's not from a place, speaking of societal issues, it's not from that place where it's like, I think I know how to fix the world. I'm just...
No, it's what you're thinking about.
It's what I'm thinking about. And it's
what's in your mind.
It's what, you know, I'm sorry, folks, the wine. I'm thinking of the wine.
Like, I just said all of this, but I cannot stop thinking about
my gosh.
the wine that Phöenix has spilled all down the front of her
sorry.
body.
I'm sorry. I'm really ruining this.
You're not ruining it all. I love you. I wanted to talk about your first album and the first songs that you officially, professionally released as Hownd, which is the name that you go by as a solo artist.
Yeah.
So your debut record, 2018, called Only Good Things. Talk to me about how it came about, how it was all written and recorded, where you were at the time in your life and as a songwriter, and what releasing that music meant to you.
Yeah, that was a really great time for me, because that was the first time that I was kind of given the keys to the castle and just like go nuts. I had all this stuff around me, all this inspiration around me. I had a huge, vast well of friends and resources around to like bounce stuff off, or ask for help, or walk me through anything, or if there's something I wanted to do, you know, hire them to help out, or whatever it was. I think that was just a really pivotal time for me in songwriting, because it had all been pretty structured before, or not structured. It's weird. It got more structured and less structured when we went to school. I feel like less structured in ways in which I was an adult at that time. I was able to be a dumb adult. I was able to drink and party and smoke and like do stupid things that you weren't able to do as a kid. So in some ways,
interesting contrast.
Yeah, interesting, where it's like the juxtaposition of being really mature, but you're also doing stupid things and being a young person, which is not stupid. Again, that's not to make it...
just experiencing, just being away from home, just experiencing life as an adult human for the first time.
Yeah.
But like you said, also more structured, because now the thing that we did for fun, the thing that was our passion, is now we are turning into a profession. We are deciding to go to school, pay the money to educate ourselves, and now we are taking it more seriously than we ever have before, while at the same time truly finding like what fuels us creatively.
Yeah.
So these were the first songs that you were comfortable releasing yourself, that you had written.
Yes, these were the songs that, they weren't the high school songs, they weren't the you know, kid songs, the goofy kid songs I had written. I'd put out a bunch. And yeah, I had
Not the
recorded
potato
with
song.
friends and put out like maybe 6 or 8 songs maybe throughout my time. And then so in college when I rebranded, when I wanted to just be someone new, as you mentioned, I was working with bands and I was in groups and duos and stuff, and I stepping out to myself, yeah, that was the first batch of songs that I remember writing, and I remember sitting there through them and kind of working with friends, producers, engineers.
I remember you writing them too. Not that I was there for every moment of your writing process for those songs, but I do have a vivid memory of us living together in a tiny little apartment, 1-room situation in Boston while I finished up my degree and you focused on recording those songs. And it's like I can picture you at the desk in the corner of the room.
Oh, I totally remember
it.
It was great. It was great,
parlor
honestly.
Guitar.
Oh, it was great. It was up against the window. I can remember the layout. I remember the table.
Looking right at the dumpsters.
Looking right at the dumpsters down
in
below.
The parking lot
the
in
beautiful
Boston.
Glistening grease from those dumpsters on the ground.
So you'd say that was a really formative experience for you, and like, what was that feeling of finally, obviously you'd been releasing songs and writing songs for years, like you said, in high school with friends, and being in Dear June and collaborating and co-writing and releasing those songs as a band. But what was the difference in finally deciding I'm gonna actually do this on my own and release these songs that are just mine?
Yeah, I think that was young, being younger, like it was kind of my emotional, kind of maybe egotistical response to school in a way, where I was just like, these are the songs, like before I get out of here, I gotta really get some good stuff out there.
Like you had to. Like
yeah, and I say
no
I say that the ego thing because there was obviously parts of me that I didn't really care about other people. I was really there and I just wanted to get my time out of the school. But I think what the inspiration around and kind of, there was this weird competitive nature, which again, I never felt until Berkeley. I never felt until going to college for that. Like,
it's true. Because everybody is amazing.
Everyone's amazing. And
it's like the top musicians in the world, really, truly, some of them.
Yeah, and I never saw it as a competition to be the best. I thought that was so ridiculous, but there was a competition to be around people and be around the top of,
and maybe be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, of course.
Because you're
and be
being
the most
challenged.
Authentic. Like, it was so clear too. You saw the people that were the most like authentic artists and like true to themselves. They weren't just there to like be the best songwriter ever. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that was really inspiring to me. And so those songs were written totally in the headspace of like, hey, I've got something to say about the world, because I've been writing with other bands and I've been in other things, and I was like, this is what I feel. And there were a lot of these songs that were very like Looking Away and like Smoke and all this stuff. Like, those songs were very, very much relevant to how I felt in the world and how I felt I wanted to take on the world. Like, it's a weird...
no, that is true.
Weird
that is true. And it's interesting having this conversation with you, because I know you so well, but I also know your music so well. Like, I really know, like, I've memorized the guitar solos.
You have,
like,
crazy.
I'm thinking I'm thinking of the guitar solo in Nicotine Sting in my head right now, but it's interesting, like, to hear you talk about it so many years later. And it makes a lot of sense to me that you're saying, like, this is how I wanted to take on the world, and it's interesting the way that songs, when you're writing them and even as you're releasing them, they can mean something so different than when you look back on it years later. And I also wanted to ask you, so since your debut album in 2018, you still are going by Hownd as a solo artist and continue to release music and have released, I don't know exactly the numbers, like 5 singles and
something like that. Yeah. Put out a couple live takes of stuff.
Acoustic EP, and you continue to just, I swear you are like, I don't know how to put it. You're truly like such a creative person, and you never stop writing. Like, no matter where you are in your life, I know that there's never going to be a time when you stop writing. Like, you are just
God, I hope not.
I don't know how to put it. I want to say something like a train, but that's not what I mean. Like a factory of songs.
A song factory.
But looking back on all of the music that you've released as Hownd, do you have a favorite song or a favorite project that you've worked on and released, or something that really like resonates with you so much that you feel like it's a reflection, like a total reflection of you as a person in your whole discography?
My whole discography, it'd be there's a couple, I can think of a couple just quick things.
And I know I'm not expecting you to take one of your songs and say this is the best one above all of them, because they're all amazing, and I'm just curious of where your head's at as an artist, because it's so different than the people that are listening to your music.
Yeah, I feel like what I really enjoy in music specifically is the vibe that it sets, I think now.
You did say the other day, I'm a vibe guy.
Yeah. So and I'm not alone here. This is not like a hipster take.
Justin
this is not a hot take.
Justin is here for the vibe.
I'm here for the vibe, because I'll tell you the songs that I relate to, how I feel is when it's not even a matter of I'm listening to the song has created such an atmosphere that I'm no longer existing in the world right now. That I'm existing in the atmosphere that this song's created. And it is
You're
a movie.
existing in the song.
It's literally like a soundtrack to the current life. And it's like, that's the reality that's better, is when that's the actual vibe and atmosphere that's going on, and I place this picture here with it.
Right.
And that's, again, people would say that's, avoidance, or you're like trying to disassociate with life. It's like, no, it's actually a matter of
say that.
Well, yeah, it's a matter of what I'm drawn to. So for me, the songs that I love that have created an atmosphere that I think are it's too hard to pick. I think there's a couple things. All right, my mind's racing. I'm sorry, everybody. My mind's racing. The reality is, I have a couple special songs. The first one, I would say, thinking back to college, I would say was Slow Me Down. And I'll say Slow Me Down because...
One of my favorites, still to this day. Honestly, a fan favorite.
Yes,
Truly.
and seriously, it is the sleeper, because I'll say, great team, Louis Remenap, buddies, really good just people around. You sang on it. We had started dating.
I think that was the first song that I ever worked with you on.
Yeah, I think it was, and I remember we went to the studio,
situation.
and there was a lot of love that went into that song. So I would say that was one of the. I was in the studios. There's a producer, looking at me through the glass in this amazing studio. Like, that was the first time where it was like, oh shit, like this could be my life. I'm gonna do this. Like, if I play my cards right. I haven't yet, but. That's where I was feeling. Yeah. So that one's one of them. And then I would say there's two other ones. Iron was one of my favorite songs I've ever written, because I had just gotten down to Nashville at the time. And I was alone down there because Phöenix was wrapping school up, and I was living in this basement of a guy who was out on the road doing sound for someone, touring a lot.
Such a sad time. Like, such a hopeful and happy, but also... like such a bittersweet time in our life. Absolutely.
And it was bittersweet, and you got to go through those challenges, and it's healthy to take them on, I think. And I definitely took on more than I could handle, probably.
Not true.
Well, no, I guess I didn't, but more than I expected. Sorry, that's what I'll say. More than I expected.
And you got a great song out of it.
And I got a great song. Iron, I wrote. It felt very much like I'm in Nashville, Music City, sitting out literally with the peepers and the cicadas and everything, like in the summer, the fireflies, thick air, like that was really like a very, I felt like, wow, I'm a songwriter. So that was also
when you think about writing that, it's interesting, because I think often about how music can, like, it transcends thought and experience in some ways. Like, as soon as you hear a song, it transports you back to exactly the time that you heard it for the first time, or that you were listening to it when something really important happened. But it's interesting also to hear you talk about, like, how thinking about writing that song transports you into the exact place that you were as you were writing it, like the thick Nashville air and the fireflies and the cicadas. Like, it's just interesting, like, as songwriters, that even the thought of the writing process can bring us back to that time as well.
Yeah.
That exact moment.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally true, and it kind of is that very self-aware moment that I think, like thinking back to when the song is written, in the moment that the song is written. I mean, when I hear the song, I am transported back there, but the reason why that song came to be was because in that moment, I was just so, just so comfortable to experience what I was experiencing, despite how hard it was, despite the challenge of what it was and how sad I was. There was a joy I had to do it that was different, I think, and that I think was what makes like a sad kind of hopeful
That's called
song
growth.
like that. We call that growth, ladies and gentlemen.
We call that growth.
Here we dissect the living crap out of songs and things about songwriting. And the last one, just to finish up, I'll say, is pressure. And the reason I say pressure,
a true fan favorite,
is a true fan favorite because that was the time that it just felt like I was an artist. I didn't feel like a songwriter. I felt like a musician. I felt like an artist. Up there, I was playing my songs around town. I had 5-piece band, getting to rehearsals when I could, like doing the thing, really.
I was just gonna say that.
Shitty bars, no one's there. It's a great time. I'm crying on the inside. My friends are there. They're like, man, I hope more people come out. I feel really bad for this guy. His songs are all right,
is
but
so good.
no. Anyway, so I'd say
like
pressure.
Michael Scott meme that's like, I am dead inside.
Yeah, I am dead inside. Yeah, so I would say pressure because I remember the vibe I had when I got the chorus of that song. I remember that was just like, as maybe others listening or I know you have had, where it's like you write a chorus and you're like, yeah, this is a good one, and it was
not me.
No, you never have that? Oh, you're killing me.
I mean, this is not a podcast about my songwriting habits, but I truly am not strong chorus writer, and that's why I have you.
Oh, okay. Well,
but it's
or
an
moments. It doesn't
chorus.
have to be a chorus. Let's say there's a strong, like your lines or your melody. You've definitely had moments where it's like, this is
good. When good. I remember. Oh my gosh, when
just
actually
because the way it
when
made people feel, I guess, yeah.
When one of my like best friend in college, Andrew, the first song that Justin and I ever wrote together, we also have a duo, but that's for another time. But the first song we ever wrote together was called New England, and it has like a 5 minor in the chorus, speaking of strong choruses, and it was like our harmonies just like locked in together, and that 5 minor was just like so longing. And I remember one time when Andrew was sitting down with us, and after hearing it for one of the first times, and he was like, do you understand how good this song is? And it was the first time that instead of completely shutting it down and just saying like, oh, like that's so kind, I just like shutting down any compliment that came my way, I remember being like, I kind of do.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually a really good song.
Yeah,
I really like this song.
And that's the stuff that I think is kind of attributed to, like, we're songwriters and we write songs because we observe things and because we're aware of things, and there's things going on in our heads as we just see different things. Not that other people don't. I think that's ridiculous. Everyone does, but we act on it and chose to act towards it. So it's
true, yeah.
It's
I think songwriters see things differently. Like I see sometimes in metaphors.
Totally.
And we hear differently. We hear people say things.
Yeah, more colorful language, more maybe hyperbole, more hyperbole sometimes. But in general, I think I clearly don't think.
This is the third time.
I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize.
Down,
I love you so much.
Okay.
I love you.
Thanks.
I love the way that your mind works. You do not have to. I wish this is one of the times where it's like your spouse finishes your sentence, but I'm just staring at you like I'm just waiting for you to finish, and then you're like, we finish each other's
farts. Yeah.
You don't have to finish your thought.
Sorry, there's nothing.
I think the moral of the story is songwriters see and hear differently, and you were talking previously about strong choruses and how when you wrote
Sorry.
Pressure,
Yes.
you were really,
I remember
you
what I was
just
saying. Gosh.
played and wrote the chorus and were like, this is a good song, and
Yes.
this feels like
it was
me.
the awareness.
And speaking of the vibe.
Yeah, speaking
you
of
were
the vibe,
creating a
I was creating a
vibe.
vibe, and that's what I'll say. The Pressure defined the vibe I had as what my music was when I was in Nashville. I think if out of one song, that's what I wanted, and it's funny because I look back and it's like in my head I wanted that high energy, groovy, funky, cool, great groove music, and
Like
that
you were
was
saying
like
at the
my
beginning,
version of it, and so it
the
came
backbeat.
Yeah, the backbeat, and it came through for me. So that was also a song, but
that was
a song. Yes,
that is a very good song.
But to go back to about the good part of the song, like having that awareness, similarly to how there's awareness to life as a songwriter, it's like to be able to have the awareness when like actually this just meshes really well, and I guess that's where it's coming from, where it's like
when it feels
I
good.
know that this will slide through pretty well just because it's got all the things, you know what I mean, and that kind of feeling. So that's what I had with that song.
Yeah, and when it feels good and when it feels right, it is right, because especially when you are a creative person and a songwriter and a solo artist releasing your songs, that's really all that matters, is that it feels right and it feels good for you. Because you're the only one who needs the approval of anything that you're doing. Yeah. So to close out this conversation, I just wanted to ask you, after years now, 7 years, that's how long we've been together, after releasing original music as a solo artist for 3 years now, almost 4, coming up on 4 years, and after writing songs since you were in high school, and after collaborating and co-writing, and in addition to being a songwriter, also just being a really all-around creative person, musician, illustrator, truly, like, I don't understand how you do it. Like, you bleed creativity. It's truly incredible to be a witness to what you do. I wanted to ask you, what is some advice that you would give to your past self as a songwriter and a creative person? And also, what is some advice that you would give to yourself in the future as a songwriter moving forward?
Not to be cliche, but probably just worry less and write more.
I don't think it's cliche.
I think it's
poignant.
Okay, well, that's good, because I feel that now, and now more than ever, where it's like we just live at such interesting times as far as what to worry about, when it feels like there's an unending wave of just one after another, like, oh, don't worry, you've got a queue of maybe 6 million things. If you didn't want to worry about this, you can worry about these. And I think that at the end of the day is just something we're living through right now. And that's just a reality of our times. And the people that can skate through that don't let, it bog them down so much. So I'd say when I was younger, I did a lot of writing, but I also did a lot of overthinking and worrying and over futzing things. Overfutzing. I think art's best when you don't get tied to it. And contrary to how maybe we learned in some of our institutions, like, it's actually good to not sit months on something and try to tweak every little bit and run it through the scanner every time you can. Music is being stripped of its organic nature. It's being turned into formulas and just completely watered down. And inevitability, for sure, there's a part of it that's inevitable, but I think we live at a time where we can still stand above that and create art. We can still not let those things bother us and worry us. So that's when I say just write the experiences. Like, I'd say it to myself younger, and I'd still say it to myself. I'll probably have to say it to myself again in the future, where it's like, just create. And maybe I have a couple different interests and different passions, so not just write, like just art more. Just like literally just art more.
And I like just create.
Just create. Just be, we create our own realities. It's true. So create your own reality. Create your reality in which your art is in the world. Like create that reality. And it's never gonna happen for you if you don't make it happen. You know what I mean? And it's not to say that there's not a huge plan and there's not kind of a prophecy or destiny for you. There totally, I think, are elements of that. But also, we're humans and we live to push back against that stuff. We live to be defiant. We live to push ourselves past where we can't. So don't give in to that worry and just really just write through it, create through it.
And when you say worry less, it makes me think of my past self, and specifically worry less about what people think of your music and your art and your songs. Like,
yeah, that's what I thought too. Yeah.
Like, obviously worry less about everything.
Yeah.
And not just in songwriting, just in life.
Yeah.
But worry less about what people think about what you're creating and what you're putting out into the world. Because like I said, you're the only one who needs to approve of what you're doing, truly.
Yeah, and without you, it wouldn't happen. There's no team that comes in to save the project and then brings it to. It's like, these are your songs. These are the most tender parts of the human soul, the human experience. These are what every human being, despite their creed or their background or what they've gone through, like, they feel music. It's transcendental, and it's literally in our bones and in our blood. So to even touch this, to even have a moment where I get to feel like I'm even participating in something like that is a blessing and a joy. So really, it's just the reminders to yourself. Get out of the phone. Anyone out there, get out of the phone. Not like don't partake in the phone. Do it well. Be part of the social media. Absolutely. Take it seriously if that's something you want. But just like live outside of the phone. Don't live in the phone. Like just live for the real experiences. Walking down, that's something also just to tag on. I've worked so many random jobs in my life. And I used to think that was such a big issue and such a roadblock for me, but it was how I generated most of my inspiration, because the days that I wasn't at work, the days that I wasn't out in the world, the days that I wasn't humbled or wasn't helping people or just being outside of my own thing, I was sitting at home not writing.
Right,
so
not creating experiences to write about.
Exactly. So that's a huge part of it too. So don't beat yourself up too bad and just write more.
Worry less, write more.
Worry less about insert
I love
here.
that. I think I'm going to write that down and tack it onto our fridge.
Tack it on the fridge, baby.
I love that.
I love you, and
I love you.
You're an incredible songwriter, and I'm really excited to see what you do, because you have so many wonderful thoughts about this world of songwriting, but also musicianship and artistry, and you've been able to touch a lot of avenues and a lot of people. So I'm excited to see where this goes for you, and I'm excited.
Thank you. I love you, my husband.
And you're cute.
Thank you for being my first guest.
And you smell nice.
I smell like the wine that I spilled all over myself.
Yum.
Thank you so much for being my first guest. This was a really nice way to ease into this podcast endeavor that I am going on. I'm really excited to just talk to people about songwriting and just totally geek out. And I know I talk to you all the time about this kind of stuff, but it's also really nice to just reflect with you on your work and you as a songwriter and artist, outside of me. And you are just amazing. You're an amazing artist and a creative person, and if you weren't my husband, I would have you on.
Oh, that's sweet.
And so tell people, like, what is the best way to support you, where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere at Hownd Creates, HOWND Creates. You can find mostly my music and my illustrations, my art, and some random stuff, some rants, just me. That's over at Hownd Creates, and as well as patreon.com. I'm going to be ramping that up hopefully soon,
right,
with some more material, and that's long term, but it just seems smart moving forward. But Instagram and TikTok, maybe. You can find me.
You have a TikTok account.
I doubt I'll be up on the TikTok much, but
it is Hownd, HOWND. You can find his music everywhere on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever you want to listen to it. Please do listen to Justin's music. It is amazing, and I'm just excited to see what you do
Thank you.
in this life.
Right back at you.
Okay. How do I end the podcast? Actually, you know what? Can you please sing the potato song to get us out of this potatoes?
Potatoes, potatoes. I like potatoes, potatoes, potatoes. I like potatoes, potatoes, potatoes. I like potatoes, potatoes, potatoes. I like potatoes with mayonnaise.
I'm a potato. I'm a potato.
Mayonnaise and ketchup. I forget the B section. I do
there was
have to go
more?
back. I have to go back. I'll have to look
Right.
at it because I don't remember the form totally. But
You'll have
something
to go
about
back to the
mayonnaise and
session.
ketchup. I like it in fries, not wedges, or something like that.
Wow.
It was real profound stuff. Yeah,
You're
I'm
gonna
just,
have to release that song.
Just
It's the most important song you've ever written, I think.
It's gonna change the world.
It is.